What's going on, YouTube? It's Big Brother 749 coming back at you with another video. I'm going to be talking about how some of these buck dancing sambos are now receiving their karma, their wake up call, just as Daniel Cameron did, who lost the race right here in Kentucky a couple of weeks ago to Andy Bashir, and Candace Owens, the right wing political commentator, who just got her wake up call when she was dropped from the David Horowitz Freedom Center for not for throwing her own under the bus, but for making what they consider hateful remarks about the Israel and the Jews. And Mark Fisher, the brother who's the co-founder of Black Lives Matter, who had just announced that he endorsed Trump, will soon be getting his wake up moment too. And I'm just going to give my whole take on the whole thing. And now with Mr. Cameron, he had lost the race here in Kentucky as the governor nominee, to where the governor Andy Bashir has been reelected. He won a second term for the state of Kentucky, beating out Mr. Cameron. And Daniel Cameron reminded me of Herschel Walker when he lost last year in Georgia to Raphael Warnock. Trump's my friend. That's my brother. Because Herschel Walker, he was a puppet. He was a big former football player wanting to be a freaking senator just because, while showing off a fake badge in a debate, claiming that he was a police officer when he could have actually gone to jail for doing some shit like that because he was a lying piece of shit. And I mean, they could have done better than fucking Herschel Walker. But I'm so glad that Daniel Cameron lost. And though, we could say that it was more about Mr. Cameron's policies instead of racism, but I'm starting to believe that it was both. Because while I do feel that he lost because he wanted to take, Kentucky voters' rights away, I could see how there might have been a lot of racist Kentuckians who were so disgusted and appalled that he was black, and Kentucky's a deep red racist state, and and they decided they wanted to vote for Andy Bashir because if Daniel Cameron was a white man, it's possible that Kentuckians would have voted for him, because being a governor, that's like the president of the whole state, and I could see racist whites not wanting a black man running, even though he's a Republican. And that could have been why Andy Bashir won, because some were saying that Andy wasn't really a strong candidate to get a second term. And I don't know about that, but, it's whatever. But regardless of why Mr. Cameron lost, I felt his defeat was just Kentucky voters giving him a glimpse of reality. He thought that he would be rewarded after not doing his job in the Breonna Taylor case, and thought he was going to win Kentucky over because this sister had her home busted in by cops in a no-knock warrant search. And as Kenny Walker tried to defend himself in Breonna, the cops started firing gunshots, and Breonna ended up losing her life in the hands of those police officers. And I think people are starting to realize how messed up a lot of these cops are, which is why Governor Bashir had passed that bill, because you can't just bust in someone's home like that. Because if somebody did that to me, I would think that I was being robbed or something. And just recently, there was a mistrial with the officer, Brady Hankerson. He didn't shoot Breonna, but he was on trial for wanton endangerment. He shot a wall, put the neighbors' lives at risk, which is bad. That's pretty serious too. But I'm not downplaying that. But I was wondering how come those other two officers who actually shot Breonna got off and didn't get arrested. I thought that was weird because what about those fatal rounds that killed Breonna Taylor? If wanton endangerment for one officer was the best the grand jury could do as far as hold someone criminally responsible, then they might as well let all of those three cops off. But I guess what Mr. Hankerson did was wrong and fucked up still. Since the neighbors had nothing to do with why the cops were spraying bullets in that apartment. They were there for Breonna and Kenny, so the neighbors didn't need to be involved or be a part of someone else's chaos. He's shooting at a wall, putting people's lives in danger, regardless if it was a mistake or not. It doesn't matter. It's crazy. But Breonna Taylor was killed, and Mr. Cameron, the Attorney General of Kentucky, he had a chance to prosecute those cops, but he didn't. He refused and denied justice for Breonna Taylor. He was looking out for those cops, and by doing that, he believed he was going to gain favor of white folks of Kentucky, the deep red state, trying to pander. And I honestly thought, that it was going to be that way too. Thinking he was going to get a massive amount of support so he could lead and rise up high in political office in racist ass Kentucky. And I live in Louisville, Kentucky, and there's been a history of racism down here, such as the busing situation in the 70s, where they were against desegregation, and plus there were a lot of race riots down here in the 60s. And right here in Louisville, I wouldn't say that it's openly racist like now, like it was back in the day, but the mentality is still there. And really, that's just Kentucky in general. And that's why if you're a black Republican official running for Kentucky or any other deep red state, you can't underestimate the system of white supremacy, because there's a strong possibility that those voters showed Mr. Cameron their true colors, showing how anti-black they really were by voting for his opponent, Governor Bashir, in the Blue Party, because he was a white man. They were willing to go vote for Bashir, a white candidate, because they didn't want to see people of color gain any sort of power, even if they throw their own under the bus. And I think that defeat on the night of November 7th brought Mr. Cameron down to reality. Just like Candace Owens, who used to be a Democrat, a liberal who hated Trump, but she flipped the script to where, she once stated that she never experienced racism when she has, to where she was talking shit about the NAACP when they actually helped her win the lawsuit against her high school, where she claimed she was being discriminated against and facing racial threats, and that they didn't do anything or didn't do enough to protect her. And as long as she was doing her political commentary, degrading and talking shit about black people, the conservative group were cool with it. But when she said something about Israel and the Jews, that's when they dropped her. And just recently, like I was saying, one of the co-founders of Black Lives Matter, Mark Fisher from Rhode Island, was talking about how he's officially supporting Trump next year in 2024 after what Trump said about Black Lives Matter. It's just crazy, and I feel that this brother is in for a rude awakening too. And some people say that the Black Lives Matter movement has died since they haven't been protesting in some time. But I noticed that they were more active under Trump, and I think it's interesting that he supports Trump since Black Lives Matter were more active under him. That's strange. And see, the thing is that I know it may seem that I'm shitting on black Republicans and conservatives when I'm really not. I feel that they have just as much right as anyone else to run a campaign or vote with a different belief, because really that's what makes politics interesting, because I feel the political world will be born if we all thought alike. But what gets me is when they support white nationalism and white supremacy that's very blatant, very transparent, and very plain and obvious, to where they're degrading themselves and simping for Donald Trump. Because what a lot of these brothers and sisters don't realize is that they're just being looked at as tokens, and they don't really seem to grasp or understand that. They don't understand that they're being taken advantage of. There's a bunch of white Republicans who look down on blacks and don't even see them as human beings. Because whenever I see a black Republican today in 2023 who supports Trump, I feel something's not right about them. They're running or supporting a party that's trying to block everything the Democratic Party tends to do. Even if the policy was introduced by Republicans, because they're supporting a party that's giving tax breaks to rich people, since Trump hasn't done nothing when he was in office, but gave a bunch of rich people tax breaks. And I mean, Kanye West and 50 Cent, I get, because they're millionaires. But I'm talking about non-rich blacks. And yeah, there's still, a lot of black millionaires out there. There's still more white millionaires in America than any other race. And these blacks are supporting a party that's against racial justice. And they say Trump's not racist. But if you notice, when he was asked, was he racist, he said, I'm the least racist person. The least. Like, why didn't you just say I'm not racist when you could have just said I'm not racist at all, even though it's a lie? And the Republican Party is against racial justice. They're all for AR-15s, yet they want to demonize the Democratic Party and all their supporters. And this is the Republican Party of today, and this is not a video bashing black Republicans or conservatives, but many black GOP officials seem to have this problem with throwing their own under the bus, because racist whites ain't doing that with other whites, so why are blacks doing it? Because racist whites ain't going to accept self-hating Republican blacks, completely as their own, because they're like, hey, why are you trying to come over here to where we at? We like who we are. You can't like who you are. Because while racist whites may get along with a Pacific black who's going to sell out and cater to them or pander to them, at the end of the day, they're still going to prefer their own over blackness. And though they hate blacks, I think they tend to have more respect for a pro-black or a black or a minority who respects and loves themselves and their race instead of trying to cross over to where they at. And it's sad, and Hispanics who vote for Republican and vote for Trump will get their wake-up call too, because the Republican Party, they hate you, they're openly racist, they don't want you in this country, and then you're going to vote for them for what? You're not going to get anything from it. Just like the Hispanic dude who was a former Proud Boys leader who got sentenced to 22 years in prison for his involvement in January 6th. He did all that for a man who don't even care about him. But the rest of these buck dancing sambos, will get their wake up call too. It may not happen today, it may not happen tomorrow, but it's going to happen, and by then it'll be too late. But that's all I want to say, folks. This is Big Brother 749 signing out. I'm out. Peace.